3 stars on safety for the Kia Stinger. That sounds pretty bad. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, the place where Aussie new car buyers save thousands off their next new cars. Hit me up on the website for that. And now, constructive feedback from one of the many frustrated executive producers who darken my inbox routinely. You know who you are.
Hi John, I think it's time for you to show people you're not in bed with Kia and talk about the poor crash rating the new Stinger has. Keep up the good videos.
Johnny. Punctuation. Sadly, a dying art. This episode proudly sponsored by Free Advice. Not worth the paper it's written on ever since that unpleasant incident with the apple in the Garden of Eden. Terrible stuff. Johnny says I should talk about this Stinger's, quote, poor crash rating. So let's do that. ANCAP published the Kia Stinger results on the 13th of December 2017. Stinger got 5 stars in SI, GT line and GT, but the entry-level 200S and 330S got 3 stars only. And just to be perfectly clear on this, the crash performance of all Stingers is the same. The Poverty Pack Stinger got 3 stars because it lacks autonomous emergency braking, lane departure warning, and so-called speed assistance systems. Above the entry level, and it's a $7,000 step up, so absolutely not a trivial sum, Stinger is rated 5 stars. And this is not very different to the Subaru Impreza range. Impreza lacks those safety assistance systems on the base model, but it does have them above that. But the Impreza gets 5 stars from ANCAP across the board today, while entry-level Stinger gets 3. And this is because Impreza's results were delivered late in 2016 and Stinger's were published almost a year later, and in between the rating system changed dramatically to include all of that safety assistance stuff. And I'd suggest that ANCAP has botched badly communicating to the public that 5 stars in 2016 is not the same thing as 5 stars today. And this is not helped at all by the media, which is inherently biased towards conflict, sensationalism and laziness. 3 stars for Stinger. What a great headline, but without the context, it's just sensationalist, lazy bullshit journalism. David McGowan, reporting for rudderless website drive.com.au, described the result as a, quote, shock, which is only true if you don't understand how the rating system actually works. And formerly relevant exhibit in the Museum of Ancient History, Wheels magazine, published by those Bauer Media losers, ran the sensationalist lazy headline, Crash Test Watchdog hits Kia Stinger with a 3-star score. Yes. That's far more click-worthy than the balanced truth, I'd suggest. Wheels also described Stinger's absent safety assistance stuff as, quote, vital, which clearly it's not. Sensationalism and laziness together, yes. ANCAP boss James Goodwin is widely reported to have said Australasian customers should feel let down that important safety features are being left out of the vehicles we're being supplied. I'd respectfully suggest Mr. Goodwin should think harder and spend considerably more time worrying about how valid the results really are for Australia. Because the Stinger from which the Australian results were derived was a left-hand drive version, a diesel, and it was crash tested in Europe. Obviously, we drive on the other side of the car. We don't actually get the diesel, and the diesel is about 100 kilos heavier. And the child restraint information currently in ANCAP's technical report is relevant only to the European market. So there's that. In my view, Mr. Goodwin might better occupy himself communicating to the public the dog's breakfast that the ANCAP rating system has become now that 2 5-star ratings can coexist for current vehicles on the ANCAP website, and they can easily mean vastly different things. He might also want to deal with the cash-strapped company's increasing reliance on left-drive Euro crash tests for Australian results. Personal opinion. I don't know about you, but I would really like to see unequivocal safety ratings that are much more about you or me walking away uninjured after a crash. Because this 5-star to 3-star transitional fiasco playing out right now with Stinger, it's going to lead many people who do not understand the detail, like Johnny, to form the view that the Stinger is unsafe in a crash, and that's something he clearly implies I should come clean about. This exemplifies the disgraceful inadequacy of ANCAP's arbitrary definitions of safety. If you go on ANCAP's website right now, current entry-level Impreza is a 5-star car. Entry Stinger is 3, and meanwhile, in the real world, they're about as safe as each other. The Stinger's 3-star result is very different to what those assholes at Ford did with the Mustang. The Mustang crashed badly, and it was also stripped of safety assistance technology for Australia and Europe because Ford kind of bet the farm that Euro NCAP would not crash test the Mustang. And that information is according to the Secretary General of Euro NCAP. So here's the ANCAP crash performance for the Stinger and the Mustang, and you can see that the Stinger crashes significantly better than the Mustang. The BMW X3 is there for your reference as well. Just hit pause and check that out. But you can see that the Stinger crashed about the same as the X3, which is to say, pretty well. The Mustang, not so much. Without fundamental re-engineering, the Mustang remains unsafe in a crash. And you can verify that on ANCAP's website. It is not just a matter for the Mustang of fitting the safety assistance technology. If the world were ideal, I guess Kia would put all of the safety assistance stuff in the base model Stinger, and Subaru would do likewise with the Impreza. Unfortunately though, car makers need to make the business case work with every model, and that is a commercial balancing act where price sensitivity and sales targets collide and specifications are often the casualty. Car makers basically negotiate with the factory about the specs and the pricing to make the business case viable. And obviously, in the case of Stinger, Kia needed a list price starting under 50 grand to make the business case add up. And the concessions there included removing AEB and lane keeping assistance. To address briefly Johnny's point about who I'm folk dancing with horizontally, commercially, I am not in bed with Kia or any other car maker, but people are, of course, free to draw their own conclusions, like I care. It's not like I can control that. I tend to recommend Kia, Hyundai, Subaru and Mazda to mainstream car buyers. That's for a reason. I have a preference for these brands, which is informed by the quality of the vehicles, the value, the performance, and, importantly, the calibre of the support that you will get if something goes wrong. These preferences are not informed by some undisclosed river of cash flowing under the table and into my bank account. I have absolutely no wish to channel some 21st century version of Faust with some car maker making like Mephistopheles. Bugger that. I have preferences for Panasonic video cameras, Ted Baker shirts, Casio G-Shock watches, and ridiculous hats. And none of that is a paid product placement either. I recommend those car makers in part because the competition doesn't add up. Toyota, right? Reliable but boring, and they will not think about 12-month service intervals or Apple and Android phone integrations. Honda, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Suzuki, they all got brain damage in the GFC. They went totally Rip Van Winkle, and they only seem to be regaining vestigial consciousness now. Mercedes-Benz, the Volkswagen Group and Fiat Chrysler make some gorgeous cars, but they betray you. And then you discover, much to your chagrin, that they outsource the customer service to Hannibal Lecter Incorporated. Same thing with Holden and Ford. Only the cars are crap there to begin with. Shane R. offers me this by way of frustrated executive producerial feedback. It's an act in 3, constructively critical parts. Do you know that you come across as an arrogant wanker, Mr. Cadogan? No need for such formality, Mr. R. We're all friends. I'd suggest that how anyone comes across is a matter of interpretation. One can only put oneself forward, and what people infer, well, that's a matter for them. I guess I could see how some shallow dick might infer arrogance from my general disposition, possibly, but I strenuously object to this allegation that I am a wanker. Before I was successful, I did a lot of things myself, but now I have people for that, which is quite satisfying. Act 2. You insult people constantly. Have you tried being nice, or are you just a prick by nature? Well, Shane, I have not insulted you, but I am rapidly forming the view that you are a vacuous bag of dick tips whose mother was a hamster and whose father smelled of elderberries, mate. But I'd concede that if one is not a prick by nature somewhat, one really has no business practicing journalism, because anything worth reporting involves intrinsically being a prick to someone. Trust me on this. I bet you won't put this comment on your next video, as this one is true. You lose, Shane, and what an uplifting way to conclude the episode. I'm John Cadogan, arrogant, insulting wanker, and inherent prick, but not a slut, at least not when it comes to giving it up for car companies. Always keen to oxygenate the opinion of the hypercritical and or hysterical. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.